There was a story about a person who had an old father. The father was quite ill, and he was up all night, and he was keeping the son and the rest of the family up all night. And the son himself, he never respected his father. He never really looked after his father. And he was getting kind of like fed up that his father, Na'uzubillah, was ill. And he didn't want to look after his father. And one day he said to his father, he said, Dad, come on, I'm going to take you out today. And the father was a bit surprised that he's never really cared for me before. What's happened today? And he said, okay, no problem. And he said, come on, we're going to go to the park. And the father says, well, I can't walk. You know, I'm ill, I can't. No problem, Dad, I'll carry you on my shoulders. So the son was shocked that this son of mine, you know, he's never really cared for him. Now he's willing to carry me on the shoulders. So he carries his father on his shoulders, and he goes to the park. And as he's walking through the park, there's a river in the middle of the park. And he gets onto the bridge of the river. And when he gets onto the bridge of the river, he lifts his father off his shoulders and he throws him into the river. Astaghfirullah. Many years later, when that same son who had thrown his father into the river, when he got old, when he got ill, one day his son said to him, Dad, come on, I'll take you out. Dad, come on, I'll take you to the park. And he said to his son, my son, I can't walk. Don't worry, Dad. I'll carry you on my shoulders. And as that person who'd thrown his father into the river was now on the shoulder of his son, as he was going to this park and he was going towards the river, he said to his son, my son, I know what you're going to do. And his son all of a sudden was shocked. And he said, Dad, how do you know what I'm going to do? He said, you're going to throw me in the river. And he said, Dad, how did you know that? How do you know that I'm going to throw you in the river? And he says, because I did that same thing to my dad. Now the son, he realized the error of his ways and he took his father home and he cared for him. But the thing is that our children learn from us. If we don't respect our elders, how do we expect our children to respect us? We don't respect our elders. We don't respect our fathers, our grandfathers, and then we think our children should respect us. What are the parents? What are the parents doing? Where is the father? In most cases, the father is busy working as hard as he can, doing double shifts, making as much money as possible. And what is he doing with that money? He's building a big bungalow back home. But what is the use of that money? What is the use of all of that money if your children are away from the deen? Parents need to spend time with their children. If you ask any parent, why are you making all this money? If you ask them, why are you making all this money? You're working so hard. He says, I'm making this money for my children. But will your children actually value that money? That money that you've just given to your children, will they value it? There was a story about a person, he had a very expensive shawl, a really expensive shawl, and he had very cheap shoes. And he took off his shawl and started wiping his shoes, started cleaning the dirt on his shoes. And someone said to him, what are you doing? You know, you've got a really expensive shawl and you're wiping the dirt on these cheap shoes. And he says, these shoes was paid for from the money that I earned. And this shawl was from the money that my father gave to me. This is the value that they have of money. If they earn the money, they understand the value of it. But when it's given to them, they don't really understand it. In another sad case, the Muballighs of Dawat Islami went to somebody's house whose father had passed away. And they went to this person and said to him, you know, we're really sorry, Afsosa. They read Fatiha for the father. And said to this brother that we're really sorry that your father's passed away. And you know what that young man replied to them? He said, you say you are sorry, I'm not sorry. My father only left me £60,000. Allahu Akbar. So will they value this money that you leave for them? You may say, well, I'm saving up for the education. You may say, well, I'm saving up so that they can get married. You may say, well, I'm saving up all this money. I'm working so hard so I can put them on the property ladder. My dear Islam brothers, when a person is dying of thirst, he's really, really thirsty. You don't plan to build a well for him in 10 years in future. You give him the thirst then. You give him what he needs right then. Our children, yes, they might need that money for their education. Yes, they might need that money so that they can get married. Yes, they might need that money so they can get on the property ladder. But what do they need right now? They need our time, not our money. You may ask a child, well, what do you want? Do you want my money or do you want my time? And the child will say, no, give me my money, Dad. But we should know better. They need our time. They need our training. They need us to give them the moral vaccinations so that they can be the good Muslims of the future. And this is not just restricted to educating children about respecting elders. It is about all aspects of Islam. And we cannot pass these responsibilities, and we think that sometimes that, we send our children to the madrasa. And we think that's our responsibility done. Our Islamic responsibility is now filled. I've sent him to the madrasa. I've even heard some parents say to the Imam Sahib, sort him out. He's causing trouble at home. We can't pass the book. We can't pass the responsibility on the others. On the Day of Judgment, we will be asked about the way our kids were brought up, not what the Imam Sahib did. It is our responsibility. As parents, we should get to know our kids better. We should know what our children like. We should know what our children dislike. And as parents, we need to set the example for the kids to follow. You expect your children to pray. You expect your children to read namaz, and you don't read your namaz yourself. If twice a year you take your child to the masjid for Eid namaz, and the rest of the year you forget it, do you think that child will grow up to be a 5-time namazi? Once a week you hold your child's hand and you say, Beta, come on, we're going for Jummah today. He does ghusl, you put nice clothes on him, you take him for Jummah. He comes home, he changes his clothes. You don't read namaz. Do you think he will grow up and he will be a namazi? But if you hold your son's hand at Fajr, said, come on son, we're going for Fajr. Come on son, we're going for Zuhur. Come on son, it's time for Asr. Come on son, there's only a little bit of time left for Maghrib. Come on son, only one more namaz, Isha, let's read Isha and then we can go to sleep. If you do that at a young age, if you take your child to the masjid with you 5 times a day, then inshallah, when that child becomes independent, there is a good chance he will read the namaz.